A great joy and a great honor to be here, and thank you so much to the United Nations, to the European Union, and to KAICIID for having the courageous commitment to bring us all here. When we speak about peace, I think it's crucial to begin with understanding what do we even mean by that definition of peace, particularly in terms of what women of faith can bring. We're not talking just about an end to conflict. Yes, that's a crucial and essential place to begin, but that's not where we're ending. Ultimately, our vision of peace has to expand into being one of sustainable life. And this is where the role of women, and particularly women of faith, is so crucial, because women, biologically and psychologically, are so naturally primed to be focused on both creation as well as sustenance of that creation. And as we're talking about the peace building, for us, that's really crucial, because what we know just statistically is that if you take the number of people who perish every year due to violence, particularly due to religious violence, due to war, but actually due to all forms of violence, and you add them together, the number still pales in comparison to the number of people who are dying simply due to lack of clean water and sanitation. So for us, that is a very crucial element to building of a sustainable society. For women of faith, that transformation that we can bring as we talk about women as agents of transformation. Again, it's not just a transformation from conflict to lack of conflict, but it's actually a transformation in how we think about the other, and how we see the other, and how we see children of the other. And women are, and particularly women of faith, truly able to see that not only children of their womb, but all of the children of the world are ours. And I know in India, in the Hindu tradition, we don't have time here, but there's so many teachings and prayers and mantras that emphasize over and over again the oneness of creation and the divinity of creation. And that is really the foundation and the framework from which we move into the aspect of peace building for all. Just very quickly, aware of our time, as we speak about the importance of the role of women, particularly women of faith, particularly in doing this work of peace building and reconciliation, what we've seen is that they play a very, very unique role, because women are, and I'm just going to list them quickly, women are listeners. We're able in an almost innate and inherent way to create and hold space. And in a lot of times of conflict, simply being heard is actually what people need so desperately. We are also natural conveners and connectors. Bringing people together in one place, on one platform, is something that comes very, very easily and very naturally to women, and especially to women of faith. Women also tend to be natural sacrificers. For women to sacrifice for their children and for their family is something that is an every hour, every day aspect of life. And when we bring women of faith into it, then it becomes a sacrifice for our greater family, for the children of the other colors, other cultures, other creeds, and other countries as well. Lastly, as we speak about sustainability and this greater vision of peace in terms of actually having water to drink, air to breathe, soil in which to grow our food. Women by nature tend to understand intuitively that the natural world is not something to be used and abused and discarded any more than their bodies are commodities to be used and abused and discarded. And so that protection of and preservation of the natural world for the children of the world, for the future generations, is something that also comes very naturally to them. Very, very quickly, in just 2 seconds, the challenges. I didn't want to emphasize this, so I left it to the end. The only challenge that I find worth mentioning here is an obvious one. It's a man's world, particularly the world of religion. And I'll come to that when I give some suggestions for how we can move forward. But there are women leaders, there are women who are playing an incredible role, but in order for us to be able to actually be effective, we have to have voices that are heard, we have to have seats at tables and on stages, and that's the biggest challenge that we face. This was fantastic, but it was too short, it was one. We need more of these, so more of UN, United Nations, KAICIID, other coming together for this topic and agenda. Number 2, expand our definition of peace when we talk about peace building. Again, without going into any more details, the United Nations has given statistics of what the tens of millions of refugees we will have simply due to lack of water. So when we talk about peace building and sustainability, prevention has to also come in there. And the wars that we're going to have over water, the displacement we're going to have over water is phenomenal. Next, allocate resources, time, energy, money to work on the ground, training these women of faith and empowering them to actually be even more effective agents of transformation. If we took a tiny percentage of the money that is used on security internationally by our governments and used it to train and empower the women on the ground, we would have a much safer and more secure world. Last, this is for the organizations present here and all of the organizations that we are part of. It's wonderful to have women's wings. It's wonderful to have separate programs for women. It's wonderful to have all of that, but not to the exclusion of including women in your main event, on your main stages, on your main boards. Too frequently what we see is, oh, this is the women's wing or the women's program or the women's stage. And that's great, let's have it, but let's not have it as something instead of having women on the main boards as part of the main programs and part of the main events. We're 50% of the population and should be 50% of all of these initiatives and programs and boards and tables and stages. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.